Okay, inshallah, we're doing a new verse today, inshallah. Read Bismillah. Right. And from amongst Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim وَمِمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا أُمَّةُ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ وَبِهِ يَعْدِلُونَ. From amongst those we have created other people who guide with truth. Right. وَمِمَّنْ خَلَقْ such أُمَّةَ يَهْدُونَ. يَهْدُونَ is a jumla fi'liya which becomes what? The sifat. Right. يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ. They guide with the truth. وَبِهِ يَعْدِلُونَ. And right. وَمِمَّنْ خَلَقْ. And right with it they establish justice on the earth. So remember the previous verse we discussed, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. Allah Ta'ala are those beautiful names, فَادْعُوا بِهَا, call Allah Ta'ala by those names, etc. And there's many virtuous, if you memorize the names, inshallah. Man ahsaha dakhala al-jannah. That is why in many of the maktabs, even by our maktab there, Ma'ad Sufa, they made the children memorize these names, right? Then we said, what is fad'uhu biha? Then ilhad fil. What is ilhad in the names? We discussed that where you uh, abuse the names, you attribute the exclusive qualities of Allah Ta'ala to besides Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and then when you those words that are can be used for besides Allah Ta'ala, then you use him fine, and then you believe also wrong belief that besides Allah Ta'ala is the Razzaq, etc. etc. We discussed that in detail. So now we're going to do the new verse, وَمِمَنْ خَلَقْنَا, and from amongst what we create, what created is such a nation, ummah and people, يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ, they are guided, they guide with the truth, right? And وَبِهِ, and with the truth do they establish justice, so, right? The previous verses offered a remedy of calling Allah Ta'ala by his good names to those who are neglectful, not making proper use of the faculties. So the previous verse linked to the other the verse before that. Remember, we said those people that they did not use their faculties for the right reasons, right? They use it only for the dunya. Then we spoke about the names of Allah Ta'ala. So the link between the names of Allah Ta'ala and the previous verse is that you use the names of Allah Ta'ala to call out to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and to use it to transcend the dunya towards the akhirah. That's what he's saying. So the previous verses offered a remedy of calling Allah Ta'ala by his good names to those who are neglectful, not making proper use of their faculties. Now this verse here 181 speaks of those who followed the straight path. So we spoke about the people never followed the straight path. The verse said, amongst those we have created, there are people who guide with truth. They guide with truth and they do justice thereby. That is, the people who guide others to the straight path and decide all the matters according to the dictates of divine law. Ibn Jarir has reported from his own sources that the Holy Prophet recited this verse and said, the people referred to in this verse are my people who shall decide their controversies according to justice and truth and observe justice in their dealings. In other words, this verse here, وَمِمَّنْ أُمَّةُ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ, are those people when they have to decide something, they have to make a decision, etc., etc., then they use the truth, they use the Quran to make the decision. Abd ibn Humayr has reported that the Holy Prophet said, addressing his companions, this verse has been revealed in your favor, and prior to you, there's been a group of people bearing the same attributes. So Ibn Humayr says, Ruqya, this verse here has been revealed with regards to the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sorry, Ibn Humayr said that Rasulullah said. Ibn Humayr said that addressing this verse has been revealed in your favor. And prior to there, the group of people bearing the same. And before you also, there were people who also, in the previous ummahs, they used their holy book, etc., to decide the truth, etc. And amongst the community of Musa are those people guide with the truth and do justice thereby. That is to say, there was a group of people amongst the Israelites where the attributes referred to in this verse of guiding other people to the truth and deciding their matters according to the law of the Torah. Similarly, the Muslim Ummah has the same attributes as their distinct feature. The essence of the message is firstly to guide people to the right path in according with the dictates of the Sharia. Guide people to the right path according to the dictates of the Sharia. And secondly, to decide all the controversies according to the law of Islam, right? And whatever comes up, use the laws of Islam, right? The essence of the mission, firstly, to guide people to the right path in accordance with the dictates of the Sharia, and secondly, to decide all the controversies according to the laws. The above two features offer, in fact, the guaranteed way of success, both in this world and in the hereafter. Any group or individuals who follow the truth and justice in all their modes of life and do not exhibit their personal prejudice while making judgments, even for the enemies, are the people of truth to refer to in this verse. Interesting. See there, any group or individuals who follow the truth and justice in all their modes of life and do not exhibit their personal prejudice while making judgments, even for the enemies are the people of truth referred to this verse. The same has been the main characteristic of the Muslim Ummah, who strictly observe the demand of truth and justice in all their dealings and overlook their personal priorities when making judgments between people. The history has recorded unique examples of such truthful practices from the lives of the blessed companions and their disciples. They're saying just about making the Quran, making the truth, the overarching principles in when making any decisions. This is what they're speaking about. And there are beautiful examples in history, right, from the previous ummats and of the ummats of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, where people had used the Quran as the laws of justice, as the overarching principle. From the day the Muslims started to show disregard to these two distinctive features of the character, an evident regression started to show itself in every sphere of their life. So the day people moved away from this, وَمِنَ أُمَّةُ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ, right? Yahduna, they are guided the truth. وَبِهِ يَعْدِلُونَ, and with the truth they make their decisions. The day they started making ilhad from this, the day they started turning away from this, what had happened? They started going backwards. So from the day the Muslims started to show disregard to these two distinctive features of the character, an evident regression started to show itself in every sphere of their life. Remorsefully though, we have to acknowledge that the majority of the Muslim Ummah have fallen prey to their personal desires. So when you make your personal desires the overarching decision maker, all the activities, their political, social, and education setups are motivated by the downtrodden worldly gains. So when in everything we do, when we make the dunya the pivot, we make the dunya the overarching principle, then obviously we're going to move away from our glory. The guidance to other people is mainly aimed at getting some worldly benefits, right? Most of right. The guidance to other people, and even so, when we want to offer something of Islam to somebody, it is to get some worldly benefit. Most of the family ceremonies are devoid of Islamic character, but they demonstrate a behavior opposed to Sharia, right? Even when we do our functions, is opposed to Sharia, right? There are some family traditions designed in name of religious ceremonies. Anyone going against or showing dislike to these innovations has to face active opposition on their part. People are no more interested in organizing themselves purely for the propagation of truth and justice. There is none to make them realize that this course of thought and action has to bring disaster to the Muslims at large. So they're saying there's none to make them realize that this course of thought and action. So we need people to stand up, and that is the ulama, and say, look, because you've moved away from the Quran, because you've moved away from the Sunnah, because you've adopted other ways, means, and mannerisms, right, in your doing, in your business dealings. You've adopted other ways, means, and mannerisms in the way you conduct yourself, etc., etc. That is why you have regressed. They're saying there's none to make them realize that this course of thought and action has to bring disaster to the Muslims at large. So now it is the duty of the ulama to stand up. It is the duty of the ulama to stand up and appraise them that they are on the wrong path, they are plotting the wrong path. The only way to restore the dignity of the Muslim Ummah and bring them back to the path of progress and prosperity is to follow the way of truth and justice suggested by this verse. That, everything, the constitution, the laws based upon the truth and justice of the Quran. conscious efforts should be made to create an awareness of these virtues among the Muslims. Okay, read that verse, inshallah. So that's the English explanation. Read the verse, inshallah. Right. يقول تعالى وممن خلقنا, and from those we create, يعني بعض الأمم, some nations we create what? أمة, such a ummah, carry on. Right. قائمة بالحق, they stand for the truth, قولا وعملا, in their speech, وعملا, and also in their actions, right? Right. يهدون بالحق, they guide with the truth, right? Carry on. يقولونه, they speak the truth, right? They do not fear losing favor with anybody. They say what has to be said. ويدعون إليه, and they call towards it. وبه, and with the truth, يعدلون, do they dispense justice, right? يعملون, they practice. ويقضون, and they dispense it, right? Right. وقد جاء في الآثار, it comes in the narrations, أن المراد, what is intended, في الآية, in this verse, هذه الأمة المحمدية, this أمة محمدية, right? Right. قال قتادة, Imam Qatada says, بلغني, it has reached me, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقول, Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم used to say, إذا قرأ هذه الآية, when he used to read this verse, he used to say, yeah, he said, look here, هذه لكم, this is for you, that from amongst you there will be, and there should be those people who يهدون بالحق, they guide with the truth, right? وبه يعدلون, and with it they make the decisions, they dispense justice. هذه لكم وقد أعطي القوم بين أيديكم مثله, and also a nation before you, مثله, was given this as well. They were given this characteristic, right? And here is another verse to bear this out. وَمِنْ قَوْمِ مُوسَى أُمَّةُ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ وَبِيَعْدِلُونَ, and from the people of Musa alayhi salam, ummatun is a ummah, yahduna bil haqqi, they guide with the truth, right? وَبِهِ يَعْدِلُونَ, and same characters here. وَمِمَنْ خَلَقْنَا أُمَّةُ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ وَمِنْ قَوْمِ مُوسَى. So it shows you that there was previous nations who had the same characteristic, right? Right. So وقال رسول الله, Rasul said, إن من أمتي قوم إن من أمتي قوما, verily from my ummah is a nation, على الحق, they are on the truth, حتى ينزل عيسى بن مريم, until Isa will come, متى نزل, when he does come. So this here, what this hadith what Rasul said, and the other hadith also, which shows that no matter how the ummah regresses, no matter, there will always be that one group of people that will always be upon the haqq. There's لا يزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق. I'm sure you must have come across that when you do Kitab al-Fitan in Mishkat Sharif, etc. لا يزال في أمتي قوم ظاهرين على الحق. That always, so no matter how uh, degenerate the ummah become, no matter how the ulama, if the whole maybe they go backwards, they start legalizing haram things, things that were previously considered to be haram, now it has become halal, this, that. But what this hadith is saying, and there are many other hadiths who bear out the same thing, that وَمِمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا أُمَّةُ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ وَبِهِ يَعْدِلُونَ, that till Isa alayhi salam come, there will always be that group that will be upon haqq. There will always be that group that will expound upon the truth. So there's no excuse for anybody to say that now we can't practice upon Sharia, we can't practice upon the true Sharia because we don't have any more authentic ulama. They will be there. You have to seek them out and find them, right? لا تزال طائفة من أمتي. Yeah. Same thing. لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرة. There will always be a group from my ummah expounding upon the truth. لا يضرهم من خذلهم. Those who abandon them will not harm them. ولا من خالفهم. And those who oppose them, in other words, they will not bow into the what? They will not bow into the pressure. I was just seeing now there's one alim in Syria. He was a great alim. When Hafiz al-Assad, the father of Bashar al-Assad, when he massacred so many people there in in Syria, then he was plied with gifts that you must endorse this massacre. You must say that the what you call it that the ruler was justified in killing these people because they rebelled against the government or whatever. So he was basically he was baited, he was forced, but he refused. He said no, he will never do it. So he's saying لا يضر من خالفهم ولا من خذلهم ولا من خالفهم حتى تقوم الساعة. So until Qiyamah comes, that will be the group. وفي رواية حتى يأتي أمر الله, until the command of Allah Ta'ala comes. وهم على ذلك, while they are upon the truth. Stop there, inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow. Subhanallah bihamdihi. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك.